We are going to have such a fun time.
Okay.
I want to say that Women's Poker Association, it is uniting women poker players worldwide. Okay, mute. And when anybody's coming in, just go ahead and mute yourself. Let you know that tonight, this is the third Thursday Talks. Ooh, and I am Donna Blevins, a Mind Shift Coach, and this is brought to you as valued members of Women's Poker Association. And I'd like to ask you that if you have suggestions for topics and speakers, please go to WPA.poker. And on top of that, please engage in the new group, Women's Poker Association Community Group on Facebook, because that's where I want to see you talking. I want to see you telling us what you want to hear. I want to know what it is you want to know about poker. I want to know, what's causing you problems with your game. Anything. This is going to be a place where you can bring that. And tonight, I am so thrilled to tell you that we have Courtney Kennedy with us, who is the 2016 World Series of Poker Ladies Championship. And I am so thrilled to have you here.
I am happy to be here as well. Hi, everybody.
Leading up to the World Series of Poker Ladies event in 2016, how did you prepare?
I came out every year, put up my $1,000, and played the best game I knew how, which was mainly a cash game-based setup, and just crossed my fingers and had fun. And the year I won, I was super stressed out. I had so much going on at home. I shouldn't have been there. I wasn't going to come. And at the last minute, my friend convinced me, just go, enjoy yourself, and whatever happens, happens. I don't even drink alcohol. And I'm going to tell you that on the, I want to say at the end of the first day, there was a lady at my table and it was her birthday. And she wanted everybody to have a shot at midnight. And I'm like, no. And I went on and took the shot. She convinced me, oh, you won't die. I said, okay. And ever since then, I just decided, just let go and whatever happens, happens. And I had fun. I made ridiculous calls. I made tight calls. I made great folds. I just, just kind of had a carefree attitude. And I think that kind of helped me, get through it. I didn't overthink it.
So what you're telling me is that you made an intention to have fun in the moment.
Yes.
Without, one of the things I talk about with my own game is what has helped my game is to set an intention to make correct decisions, have as much fun as possible, and to stay unattached to the outcome.
Yes. And that's exactly, the last part is what I carried on to. Because like I said, from every other aspect of what was going on in my normal world, I had no business there. I had lost my father the year before. I had some things going on with my mom. I had things going on with work, with my vacation time didn't quite get approved, just so on and so forth. Last minute trying to get a room, and it was one of those things like pushing, like maybe you just shouldn't go. And that would have been the worst decision of my life. So I'm really just trying to carry that attitude on a little bit further, but
Well, now you brought up something really important, because I think one of the primary things that I've learned about poker is that you have to learn how to detach yourself from what's going on in your life and set some kind of a barrier, something to now move you from the outside world
right
to the poker world. What have you been able to do with that? Is there anything you do to help you make that transition?
I literally, at this point, just shut everything else down. I try to get everything in order. I try to prioritize more. Something that I didn't do in my first 38, 37 years of living, I never wrote things down. As organized as I tried to be, it was always in my head. And I've learned in the last couple of years that writing things down and seeing things on paper helps to manifest it more, helps to compartmentalize it better. And it has helped me become better with keeping on top of the task at hand so they don't get jumbled. And it might seem dinosaur because I know everybody is social media, phones, text messages, but I realize that when I see it in black and white, when I see it in ink, and I'm keeping up with that, it just helps me a lot better.
Interesting, because today I actually came across an article from the first of this year on New York Times about the power of paper and how actually having a pen in our hand, I mean, who would have thought, that
Right.
that would be an important thing?
Okay, yeah. And I'm in total agreement. I've never heard of the source you're speaking of, but I would definitely recommend it. It's a change, and especially for a younger group, millennials, it's not comfortable. It's not even probably taught anymore in school. You come to school now with a backpack and a laptop and a cell phone. It's probably less notebooks. Everybody's decluttering, no paper, blah, blah, blah. But, sometimes at the end of the day, you can become more accountable. But when you have to go and actually dig and look and read, I know, so it's something that I found, and it may not work for everybody, but I found that works good for me.
Yeah, and I've always been a person who liked to have a list. If anything, I became too much of a list maker. But the biggest problem with me was that I was putting too many things on my list, my to-do list. They were just out of control until I realized, whoa, wait a minute. If you're going to make a list for a day, pick 3 things.
Right. And that's what I mean by compartmentalize. The way that I handle it now is, okay, today is Tuesday. I'm off work. I have 15 things that I want to get done. However, I know that 4 of them is definitely more accomplishable. So let's do that. So, yeah, it works out better.
So you were talking about during the event, you were able to get to the point where you were having fun and you just kind of let it go. What else happened during the event? How many days was the event?
It's 3.
3. Okay, so let's say the evenings between day 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. What did you do in the evenings before?
Well, I think we were done about 11 or midnight or something like that. And at that particular point in time, I just knew that I wanted to sleep. I didn't try to hang out. I didn't try to go to a club. I didn't read a poker book. I didn't watch any videos. I just knew that I should get rest. I needed to get up and make sure I had a decent breakfast, which is something I've always been bad at, but working on the whole balance in life, and making sure things are in divine order, because when you do things in order, they tend to complete themselves on the accomplished level that you're looking for it to happen. So that was my main goal, was I want to get to day 3. I'm not here to party. I don't need to see any shows. I'm not interested in Chippendales. So go to my room, relax, something to eat. And that was pretty much it. I do remember the first night I was kind of like, okay, I've made it through day 1, and just kind of looked out of the window because Vegas is beautiful, and just looking at the lights and just having kind of a meditation moment, before I was asleep for that night. But other than that, tried to turn my thinking cap off. And that's the hardest thing. Trying not to worry about what hand I folded or where I lost a little chips here or there. And because that's what I've done all the time. I'm overthink, I analyze, I'm constantly questioning, doubting, and I just said, I got to run this race until we can get to the end,
Over analyzing, doubting. You've been reading my journal?
No. my journal of life. A lot of people ask me all the time, what helped you get into poker, or what helped you learn? And it's my own mistakes. Truth be told, I haven't picked up many books, and I haven't watched a lot of videos, and I even haven't had any coaches and people talking to me. I'm kind of a loner in the poker world, unfortunately. So it's really trial and error. You know, I came out there 8 years in a row playing this ladies event and never cashed for one dime. Always just, you know, I remember the year before I won, I woke up to pocket jacks under the gun, and it was 1 minute and 30 seconds left at the end of day 2. And I limped. And the lady, I would think 2 from the cutoff from the button, she 3-bet. I went all in. We were equal in chips. It was time to go home. She snap calls me with pocket 8s and pretty much tells me, oh, you have ace king, right? And when the dealer opened the cards, it was an 8-8 in the window. I'll never forget that as long as I live. So I said, well, you know, and it was just so heartbreaking because it's like, then that's when I was still in my analytical mode. Should I have folded jacks? Did I play this wrong? Did I do? And, you know, sometimes it's just whatever is due for you is due for you, and what isn't, isn't. So, yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've had to convince myself that jacks are just pretend face cards.
Exactly.
I've got, you know, I've overvalued jacks so much. That's my moniker for jacks. They are pretend face cards.
Yes, I like it. I may steal that.
So tell me about your game now. If you were to describe your poker game.
My poker game is one that is unorthodox. I try to not do the same thing over and over again. And that may come into play a little bit with my personality. I'm a Gemini. I tend to wake up some days, I want coffee or something, and the next day I want Dr. Pepper, whatever. You know, never the same bicycle twice. So I've actually had a lot of people now ask me back home for help. So I do a little coaching, I do a little teaching. And my game in retrospect is really just trying to make sure, even if I'm playing against ladies, all ladies, you know, mixed game, what have you, I never want you to have a clear-cut view of what you even think I'm going to do, let alone what I actually may have or what's actually going on. The more I can keep you guessing in my mind, the better off I am to protect myself. Because what you're trying to do is, if you, especially in a tournament, you're trying to get to the end. And to get to the end, you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want anybody to have your whole mantra displayed in their head every time you make any ABC move. So for me, it's about sometimes raising with a 5-6 suited under the gun, and you thinking that it's just as aces as it should be, or ace king suited as it should be, according to books 1 through 100 that we've read all this time. And it needs to not be. It needs to be something that is uncharacteristic. And, you know, sometimes, you know, a lot of people say, well, what would you suggest to women? Because a lot of times women are, you know, timid or fearful at the game and trying to find a way to adjust, so to speak. And sometimes you have to do something that you're not used to doing. You know, it's just.
You were talking about teaching or coaching some people, some other players at home. What are other players? What do they tend to be missing?
Letting go of the fear factor. And that's the truth. The fear factor in this game is, I think, what keeps people from becoming their greatest self. You know, sometimes you have to look at it as like you do life. You come from nothing, you're going to leave here with nothing. And so if you're going to take on this sport, if you're going to take on this challenge, you know, you have to look at Joe Bob the same way you look at Maria, the same way you look at whomever, and understand that it's like a chess match. You just need to try to get through these people, these pawns, if you will, that's in the middle of your chessboard. I have a lot of women that say, oh, the guys just talk so much, or, oh, the guys just belittle me so much. And I say, you may have to grow some balls and do something too. You may have to, you know, get to the point where you can learn how to, excuse my French to all those that don't like French, you got to talk a little shit back, and protect yourself. It's almost like my bird. I'm going to do everything in my possible realm of thought to make sure nothing happens to him. This is my child. If I see him try to jump off and fly out the window, I'm going to try to catch him. As women, I'm not, but a lot are our parents, our mothers. You're going to try to do anything within any realm if anything was to happen to your offspring. You wouldn't care if it's a man. You wouldn't care if it's a woman. You wouldn't care if they, we see movies like that all the time. Women are fearless when it comes to protecting their own. Do the same in your game. Understand that your game is your game. Protect your game. Treat it at the highest level of hierarchy that you can put it in, and do what you need to do. If the guys are sitting there flirting, okay, flirt back. Doesn't have to mean anything. If he's belittling you, find a real indirect way to let him know you're not going to put up with it. There's ways to do it. You have to be canny. You have to be unique in a way that lets the person know, you know what, I'm going to get you off of me. We're not going to get in an argument. We're not going to be in a debate. We're not going to go back and forth where we're getting put out the casino. But I'm going to let you know that you're going to give me the highest level of respect at this table by any means necessary. And in the meantime, I plan on taking your chips. And I'm going to let you know that in an indirect way. And that's just the game plan. So you got to just take the guard off. Otherwise, I look at it as anything else in life. If you don't want to put forth as much effort, if you don't want to do as much thinking, if you don't want to do as much analyzing, it might not be for you. And a lot of times we get into something, you don't know if it's for you or not until you try it. And you just have to get to the point of saying, if this is something I really want, I'm going to be the go-getter that I am and put out there.
You brought up the fact, talking about your child on your shoulder there. One of the things that I had to realize about poker was how to value the chips like they were my children.
Yeah.
They became my family.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes I know when I first started competing, I would accrue chips, and before long something would happen and I would end up, throw them away. I would be careless. And all of a sudden I said, I have to reevaluate these chips. I need to think of them differently. Once I have them, they're mine. Now it enabled me to be able to, yes, be protective, but I also had to be willing to take a risk. But when I reframed the chips into being my family, it changed the way that I handled my chips entirely.
Right. And inevitably that's the name of the game. A lot of times I'm an aggressive player. I mean, in the world of categorizing, are you loose? Are you tight? Are you this? I would consider myself somewhat loose, but definitely aggressive, but I have knowledge. It's not a stupid aggressive. It's not a stupid loose, if you will. So I can really relate to you on the build up fast, but then sometimes you lose this one big hand and then the plummet just goes 1,000 miles an hour downhill. So that's been my struggle lifelong in this game, is trying to not have that tilt factor, or not have that factor of, okay, I lost this hand, I played it right, it didn't work out, but I still have a few of my children left in front of me. As we're saying, they're your children. How do I bring my other kids back home and we all have a big chili meal at the end? Because that's what we need to do. And I want to feed these babies and not the other ones. So yes, it's a matter of getting a grip mentally, because that's really what it's about. You can be your own worst enemy. You can be your own blockage. Sometimes we personalize poker depending on who you lost the hand to. If you don't like them or they've said something to you, it's like it stings even more. you can then make poor decisions based on that versus had it been any other player at the table, and just different factors like that where you have to say, it's just that hand, I got to move on. So that's my take on that.
Well, it seems like that. I was going to ask you a personal question, and what was your greatest strength and your biggest struggle or weakness, and I think you've defined it. To me, based on what you've said, one of your greatest strengths is that you are able to vary your game. You said you're aggressive, but you're also able to change your game up, to change gears. That's what I see as your biggest strength. Do you think that is your biggest strength?
I would concur with that. More like a chameleon. I can go into a different table depending on, okay, this is 1-2, this is 2-5, this is Omaha. These are also aggressive players. These are very tight players. And the adjustment factor is huge for me. So yes, I try to use my strength in knowing that I have to put on this outfit today, or I got to put on that outfit today, and then we got to figure out what party is what. So yeah, that's what I try to do.
So what would you define as being a weakness that you've experienced?
The plummet, the losing the one hand. Like I said, I've walked into the party. I think I have the right outfit on. I sit down. I've assessed the whole situation. I know, okay, this is Bob. This is Mary. This is Sarah. I got them all under my radar. I know what's going on. And again, the luck of the draw, the luck of the river, what have you. Mm-hmm. And then, so as great as I was playing for, let's say, the past 2.5 hours, all of a sudden I switch gears, or I'm tilting, or I'm what have you. So my weakness is not going back to the same place as when I walked into the party. So when I walk into the party, I'm ready. I'm assessing. I'm patient. I'm picking my spots. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. But losing that one hand or a few hands, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be, you can just get bad luck with a couple hands in a row, and it just changes your whole dynamic, changes your whole mood. I have to learn how to balance my mood, because to me, my mood also affects everything, because it's going to affect even how I'm coming off to the table. People are reading me just like I'm reading them. So if they're looking and saying, uh-oh, she's checked out, or uh-oh, she's lost one too many hands, she's very vulnerable. We can get her to make a loose call here, or, donk off the rest of her chips there, and so on and so forth. So my weakness that I try to work through is being conscientious of my own inner psyche of knowing that that's what I go through.
So you have any specific triggers that you use or tools that you use to help you do a mind shift?
A lot of times, believe it or not, and this may sound totally weird, I will make a joke. I will find a way to crack a joke, either directed to the person I lost a hand to. It might be to the whole table. It might be to the dealer. I have to find a way to make myself feel happy. So I will I don't know, I will find something, either something somebody's got on, they may have a funny slogan on their shirt or something, and I will bring attention to it and make people laugh and make me laugh. And then at some point, I'm hoping that my mind, like you said, is shifting back in a direction where I can say, okay, let's get back to poker.
I love that, because what you've done is you've actually accessed something that happens, because when we smile, even if we don't mean it, our brain says, oh, she's smiling, and there's some happy chemicals that the brain releases, and we can fool our brain in relationship to this. That's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you for bringing it up, because there's the story about it's a true story about a woman who actually healed herself by watching funny the Three Stooges, by watching Three Stooges.
Okay.
They said she was going to, would not be able to survive in any way. She ended up healing herself by laughing.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good.
And that's a real good. And I want to mention to everybody, please be sure to just, you have something you want to ask, just go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll check back in a few minutes to see what sort of questions you might have. how did you get started in poker? I noticed in the write-up um, after you won the championship in 2016 that you had cards in your hand when you were 2 years old.
I did. My grandmother was always a hustler, for lack of a better word to use. So back in her day, you know, the rent might be due, the gas bill is due, and, you know, whatever check I was trying to get didn't cover it all. So, you know, she would throw parties. She would throw what they called rent parties. And that would consist of a poker game. It might last till 7, 8 o'clock the next morning. And I was her only grandchild. I'm an only child. And so at that time, she was just, you know, when you're coming off poker, you're coming off dealing, you're coming off whatever, you're still kind of on a high. It takes you a minute to settle down. So I would be there, or my mother would drop me off in the morning. And so she still got decks of cards laying all across the table and things to straighten up. And she would just put those cards, you know, in my hand, literally. And my mother would say, you wouldn't do anything but sit there and slobber over them. You like, you know, or tear them up or do whatever. But she just kept at it. And eventually, like I think I became maybe 7, 8 years old, and I was starting to hang out with my father. I was just became a dad's little girl, and he would always in the gambling, always in the cards. And back then, his game of choice was 7-card stud. You know, Texas Hold'em wasn't a big thing there. And he would take me to where he'd hang out, and it'd be all these guys. Definitely a place a girl has no business into, but, you know, I was there. And I would just watch, you know, and I would watch these guys lose their mind. I would watch these guys win and lose monstrous pots and shake hands after or argue after or whatever the case may be. And that's just how I got to the point of learning the personalities and learning the traits of people well before I ever touched the game, you know, well before I even got into it totally. So
when did you first get into poker?
I was at Howard University down in DC, and I got bored. And I was in my second year, and I wanted to do something different. And I'm like, all right, I'm skipping class. I'm skipping homework this weekend. I got on Google or whatever, and I'm like, things to do. And I saw 4 hours away I could get in my car and drive to Atlantic City. And I got in the car, drove down there by myself, and I never looked back. I guess to a certain degree, it could be the worst decision I made, and in some ways, and be, you know, the best decision I made, depending on who looks at it. And that's where I flopped my first royal flush. I think I won about $40 at the time because the guy didn't have much. But I was so excited. I had never seen that hand before. You know, here I am, 23, 24 years old, and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is what my dad was into. You know, this is what I'm going to do. And so ended up skipping class, dropping out of school, going back down there every week, staying at the room, you know. But I'm making decent money. I'm able to support myself through school, you know. And then the rest is history.
So you are a dealer now?
I am at Motor City here in Detroit, which, by the way, I just got a text message at 7:56. We have the largest bad beat in the country at, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, what was the amount? $879,301, and it just hit tonight at 7:56.
Whoa!
So I'm off work tonight, but I'm sure all of my co-workers and such are celebrating, and the people at the table. It was a 1-2 game, and we play 9-handed. So it'll be 40% for the losing hand, 20% for the winning hand, and the other 7 players, I'm assuming it was probably a full game, will split the difference of the other 40%. So,
wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. Unlucky for me that I didn't deal it. But, yeah.
Well, speaking of luck, Lori asked, are you superstitious during a tournament?
No, not really. I bring my little card protector. You know, I'm not wearing the same, you know, Mitch Mac socks or something that I wore 3 months ago that I thought made me win. I'm not too much. I I try to make sure I have my music. I try to make sure I got decent rest. And I really try not to think about poker before poker. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but for me, I don't go in thinking, I wonder how many people it's going to be, or I wonder if the structure is right, or I wonder, because to me, now I'm consumed with a bunch of things that I probably have no control over anyway. So if I've decided to enter the tournament, I'm entering it. Let's just go play, have a good time.
Well, I have to say that I really have to say that you are my shero.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely, 100%. I so respect you. Another question is, do you ever show your hand if you bluff?
Very rarely do I ever show a hand, period. And again, it's because of my loose, aggressive, all over the place play that I don't even do it to piss someone off. I hear different stories. You want to get people on tilt. You want to get people chasing you. I have enough people chasing me. Because my style shows itself to when I have to open a hand. So when I have to open a hand and you see the 5-6 and you see I made the straight, but you see I raised under the gun, you're getting all the information you need when I have to show a hand. So at the times that I don't, no, I almost feel like it's detrimental to my game. I don't need you to have more information than you already have.
I agree with you 100%. I may have shown a hand twice in 20 years, if I wasn't required to.
Yeah.
Something possessed me that was out of my control. Apparently you know what I'm talking about.
I just lost sight of his thought for a moment, or the players at the table are so super friendly and it's just this nice, and you're like, oh yeah, I had this. I'm like, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's
smack
not
yourself on the forehead, right?
Ah.
And how, oh goodness, do you have a method of deciding the size of your bets?
As a dealer, for the most part, I am always conscientious of the amount of money in a pot. And that's whether it's Hold'em or Omaha or what have you. So I'm never randomly betting. I'm pretty much know if it's $108 in the pot versus just $337 and the dealer hasn't taken a rake yet. And that's just my unfortunate habit from dealing. Sometimes,
No, excuse me. That is an asset. That's not an unfortunate habit. Is it an asset? Please.
It is until sometimes I piss off dealers. So I said that because they'll tell me what the pot is and then I have to correct them. Or they'll go to take the rake and I'll say, you did it already. Or, just different things. Sometimes it's to my demise where I wish I could take that dealer hat off. Not that I'm not happy that I have that, So yeah, I try to do proper bet sizing for the most part. Even when I'm bluffing, I'm not bloating the pot up, or I'm not over betting the pot. Because again, I still want you to think that my aces are the same as what my 5-6 suited really is. So I try to stay consistent within that realm as much as possible.
So in that regard, 10 years ago, lead-in bets were a lot different than they are today. What do you consider in relationship to the size of the pot or where it is in the betting round is a smart bet in relationship to the value of the pot?
Well, it depends. The true answer to that is how much action I'm really looking for.
It all depends.
And what that means is, am I under the gun? Am I first to act? Do I have 5 or 6 people behind me? Am I betting a flush draw? Possibly, let's just go with the nut flush draw, for example. And so I want to get a little more money in there than that was whatever the pre-flop was. Maybe I've already mentally committed to the fact that I'm willing to go all in. So I may bet smaller, hoping to entice a raise, knowing that I'm going to 3-bet. I may check and then, planning on check raising, depending on the situation. So in leading into a pot, it's going to always be relative. And my head's up, what's my position? How many people are in? am I trying to take this pot down, or am I trying to get, am I trying to felt a couple people if I can, if they have good hands, but I get there, or, whatever the situation may be. I'll use my 5-6 suited, for example, or 5-6 suit, or what have you, offsuit, whatever. So let's say I'm playing a 1-2 game and I make it 12, $15 under the gun. And I end up getting 4 or 5 callers. And I flop a flop like, I don't know, let's go with 3-4 jack, rainbow. So if we're talking that we got $75 to $90 in that pot, I may bet that pot at $60 to $70 to try to get people to call with their ace jacks, or, like I said, everything's going to be relative. You got people that limp. You're going to have somebody that might hit a set. I'm trying to get to the turn. I want to make my hand, but I also want to make money. I don't want to check that flop, or I don't want to slow play it to where I'm only betting 15 and I get too many callers and then I don't end up hitting it. But, it's like I said, it's really going to depend, but for the most part, I'm going to play it aggressive, and it's going to depend on what style table I'm at. So I'm either going to bet $60 or $70 in that spot, just to answer the question for an example, or I'm going to check it if I'm at an aggressive table that's going to bet for me. And if they're going to bet for me, then I may end up check raising to try to isolate it to me and whoever's betting, where I can hopefully get there, or what have you. So,
and you're answering it with, I have a 3-word answer on most of the questions like that. How do you play? It's the answer is, it all depends.
Right.
There's so much to take in consideration. And
I just wanted to give an example if that was
sure.
a question in the forum. I was trying to, because it's all going to be relative to a lot of factors, but that would just be one example.
Yeah, it's a perfect explanation, by the way.
Okay.
And I was going to ask you how dealing affected your game, but you've already told me that it has given you an asset of being able to automatically know what's in the pot, because one of the biggest problems I find with people is that they don't know how much is in the pot.
Right. I am super conscientious of it, and I try to use it to my advantage because I know a lot of people aren't paying attention to that. I watch people bet $50 into $20, and they look up and then they realize it. They didn't, because they could even look and see, but they didn't. And it kind of is one of their biggest tells. I know you have a major hand. So if I can draw out on you, I now know you've kind of committed yourself to this hand because you're not even looking or paying attention to, what's going on. So yeah, I try to use it to my advantage. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, sorry. So are there anything that you can suggest how people do keep track of the pot? I mean, how you can count the pot, because it's amazing to me how people don't follow the pot. I mean, any clue as to how you count the pot as it goes along?
It's really, it probably just comes from my experience, as well as Omaha. Being an Omaha dealer makes you have to know numbers quickly because they want to be able to bet and get on to the next hand. You can't sit there and start taking your shoes and socks off and saying, wait, I got So it's one of those things where I know I'm pretty decent in math. So I tend to just, if it's an even number, if it's $10, if you look up and you bet $10 and you see 5 people, just stick the $50 in the back of your head, and it may get a little tricky after that. Somebody's going to bet 37. Somebody's going to be all in for, and you don't have to be to the penny, because you aren't dealing, or but have an idea that it's 150 in this pot versus 300. You do need to have a gist of it, is the best word. And like I said, it could just go from rounding numbers up, like if you're doing your budget for groceries, you normally spend $100 because what your butter and your milk and your meat and your bread. And so, You go in with that, and sometimes bread is going to be on sale and sometimes it's not, but you have an idea because you keep that in your head, or you're constantly looking at prices, or, you know, so you can kind of relate it to that is the best way I can think of it is, the best answer I can give to that, and I don't mean any offense, but with a lot of women, when I notice that I play with a lot of women, the first thing you have to do, first of all, is pay attention. A lot of times, and this means in or out of a hand, a lot of times I watch people, okay, we have our music, we have our cell phones, we have our social media, Snapchat, you know, I'm here, I made it there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. You can do all that later. You can save those pictures for later. You're here, you're trying to attain something you've never had. You're trying to get to that finish line. And so now it's time to really shut down all of the extra. Doesn't mean you don't have fun, but you find your spots for having fun. You want to watch those people that are aggressive. You want to watch these hands that are being turned over where you didn't have to pay a dime for it. That is free information that you can use at your disposal.
You're
But
absolutely correct.
If you are over because your friend Sarah is over at table 22 and you didn't make it to her table yet, and you're like, hey, let's take a selfie, and you're missing this big brewing pot and this action and these players, then you come back to that, you know, that moment, or it's your moment, your hand, and, you know, you're not privy to the same information that you could have, and you didn't invest a dime. So I tend to go with the whole counting the pot as, if you focus more on why you're there, if you focus more on what's going on at your particular bus stop, if you will, you know, one bus at a time. Don't worry about this bus down the street. You're not playing on that bus, you know, and that will help you dial in more to what's really going on and what you're trying to get through. Excuse me.
You're absolutely correct, because I've oftentimes said that we need to be, well, think about what a sniper would do. What snipers do when they set themselves up in a ghillie suit, is that, which one is it? It's one of those.
I don't know. Okay.
The one that
I haven't dated any snipers lately, so I don't have that.
Well, you know, I bring that up because I actually do a poker therapy program for traumatic brain injury veterans at the VA hospital close to me.
Okay.
And we're talking about people that have had traumatic brain injury. How do we deal with counting the pot?
Okay.
And I say, what you want to do is I'll say, what does a sniper do? And they say, a sniper settles in and they watch and they gain information. They're always attentive.
Right.
They're waiting.
Yeah.
They're waiting. And
patience is key. Yeah. In that spot.
Yeah. You know, I've oftentimes said, I made up an acronym. I said, where's your papa? It's your patience, your awareness, your position, and your action.
Right.
You know, where's your papa? So I think
I'm in total agreement. Yep.
Question: what are some tells that you watch for in other players?
Okay. I watch for as many as I can, but things that I noticed a lot, I would say, people tend to place their bets and then they turn and they talk to somebody else. And it's such a strong sign of, it's such a sure sign of strength, that it's scary. It's like, I'm betting this money. I know if we're on the flop, I know I've hit a set, and I don't care what anybody else does, because I'm going to go over here and I'm going to talk about Days of Our Lives and The Young and the Restless, and y'all let me know when y'all finish doing what y'all doing. That's basically what that advertises for me. That's probably the biggest one that I see. The heavy breathing is still something I think anyone can get away from. When I was at my final table, I thought I was going to have a heart attack every 17 minutes because I know my chest was just going up and down. Oh, okay. We made it through that hand. Okay, I'm still here, So probably not the easiest thing to control, but it's definitely still there. Talking, it's kind of like the same thing with the exposing. I try not to talk. People are really big into trying to get into your head, just listening to your conversation. Now, I will talk all you want after, and it's still not going to be about the hand. I will just go back to being my normal self. But, when they say, oh, should I call? Or, oh, what do you have? Or, oh, they're just, you've been 3-betting me this whole time, or whatever the case may be. And I'll just look at them and I'll give them a smile. I don't wear sunglasses. I'm not getting ready to have a hoodie wrapped up like these snow bunnies. And, I mean, to each his own. If that's what you like, that's what you like. But for me, I want you to see my normal face the same way if I'm bluffing, if I have it. The equilibrium of trying to be consistent is key for me.
So you want to have the neutral face.
I want to have the, hey, how you doing? Want to go grab something to eat after? I'm lying about this hand look, the same as, hey, you want to go get something to eat after? I have the nuts. You should call me so that way I get all your chips, and then we'll still go eat after. So yes, I want that face and that temperament to be the same throughout.
So you're looking for consistency, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What is different about poker today than when you first started?
Well, it is getting harder. There's a lot more people in it. There's, I still have a lot to learn. I, by no means, even though I have a bracelet and I'm very grateful and humbled by it, I still feel like there's a lot left that I can improve in my game, improve in learning. There is, like, even as I deal, I'm constantly looking at new 21-year-olds walking to my casino every day. And I'm watching a lot of them. They don't have jobs. They're making great money sitting here. They're disciplined. They're making their quota for the day. They're getting up. I see them again the next day. And, you look up a year later, they're off to the main event. They're doing whatever. And it's like, I'm watching those hands. I'm watching their play. And so it really is just so many variables now. It's so much where it just took off, and that so everybody's in it. So when everybody's in it, you have so many good players, bad players, learning players, this type of player. And so that constant shift of, like I said, focusing and figuring out what's going on at your bus stop, it's very hard. That's what I've learned has changed, is that 20 years ago, Mary Jo was going to do the same thing every time. Bob Smith was going to do the same thing every time. Nobody's coming in here that's any different. Nobody's coming in new. Nobody's coming in that they read a book. Nobody's coming in that they made a video. They just brought their money to the poker game every week, and they're doing the same thing every time. So the variation, the age difference, the, changing up in the play, because people change. So if you want to be great at the game, you have to be willing to put forth that variation in your game. You have to take out the fear factor of, oh my God, I'm at this game. I've never seen these people. You got to put your shield and armor on and walk in and make people think you're Bruce Lee, even if you're not. That's the key, is that no one should know your weaknesses. No one should know that you are totally afraid of everybody else. No one should know that you're maybe not at the top of your game, but you're trying to get there, and you got to show them that, hey, I'm just as great and welcome at this table as you. And hey, let's go for the goal.
One of the I was trying to find a byline. I was trying to find a motto for my site, biggirlpoker.com. WSOP.com.
Okay.
I shared with you that I was 6'5" tall, and they always call me that big girl in poker. And so I thought, well, how do you say that on the internet? And so my motto, it's something that I've had for years, and people love it. And I probably need to make a T-shirt out of it, which says "Guts required, sports bra optional."
That is cool. Yes, you
You like
definitely
it?
need some T-shirts. You would sell them. They would go over well. I would buy them.
Okay,
I
cool.
still got to put the sports bra on. We know we're working with a lot, but it's okay.
Lori asked, we got a couple more questions before we end, and I just want to tell you this has been such a joy. And if you have some questions out there, please go ahead and type them in the chat, because we're closing out in a few minutes. But what is your favorite game to play? I'll tell you mine in a minute.
Omaha. I'm an Omaha junkie, and it has been the best thing and the worst thing, because, oh my God, the swings and the money and the variables in that game is just absolutely
Sister,
astonishing.
I am an Omaha PLO advocate. That is my favorite. You do the high-low or the PLO?
I just like PLO.
Me too. Oh, yeah, that is my favorite.
I could play PLO in my sleep. So yeah, it's bad.
Well, I was originally schooled about 15 years ago on the Mississippi boats out of Louisville.
Okay.
And the boat was out about 4 or 5 hours, and it was, you had to have at least $1,000 to buy into this cash game. And I was surrounded. Now, 15 years ago, I mean, these guys were really old. really, they would be old to me today. Yeah. And all I can say is they were kind to me.
Okay.
And why, I don't have any idea. I mean, I can remember the first time I sat down, I ended up in seat 5, and it's a seat that I absolutely detest at my size, because they're all around me. But it was, I learned, my intention is that if I buy in for 1,000, my intention is if I get up at the end of 5 hours with 1,000, I have won.
Yes, absolutely.
And every time I played that game, I ended up with at least 1,000. So they schooled me. That's
okay.
And I absolutely love it. And 2 years ago, I was actually up at Best Bet in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I had a really small poker budget, small bankroll, but I thought, well, I just really wanted to these guys would sit down with 20 or 30,000, and I had about 3. and I sat down and bought, and you can buy in for 500 at this, at that. Why in the world could buy in at that? Anyway, I was able to have some good success, and 2 days later, because it was about as long as I played, 2 days later at the hotel, there were 2 really young kids came in, and they said, "You are really sick." And I said, "What?" "Your game is sick." And I said, "What's wrong with my game?" They said, "Nothing's wrong with the game. You are sick." And I went, okay.
Right.
Okay, I didn't know what they were talking about. But last question is, do you have the odds memorized?
No. I play by guts. I play by feel. The only thing I keep in the numbers is the pots, but whether I'm total underdog, total this, 50-40, 46-30, no, I don't have those. I never even tried. So yeah, if that's the key to my game going to the next level, then whoever's asking that question, if they're good at it, call me and teach me.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that's not a requirement, because I actually had to put a training module together about hand odds and pot odds, and I had to understand that when I was dealing with some poker coaching clients in beginning poker, just really beginning. Okay. I said, well, I had to learn it to be able to teach it, but but it's just not off the top of the head like some of the other guys do. Any other questions out there? I want to tell you that this has been an absolute delight. What has been fun to you about being on?
If we have a couple minutes left, I have something I want to say. If we have enough time.
We do. As long as you want, we can stay on.
Okay. So this is what I'll end with. If you have more questions, I don't mind, but I want to say this. After I won, and I knew I would come back the next year to try to, defend or what have you. Every year that I came into the tournament before, I would hear the previous winner's speech. And I would always think, oh, wow, I would love to give a speech one day if I ever won. Well, interestingly enough, I don't know how it works, but I didn't get asked to give a speech. Hold on, I have someone at my door. Can you give me 3 seconds?
Absolutely.
Okay, hold on. Pause 1 second.
Sure. And I'll stop her video so she doesn't feel like she's being exposed. She's probably going to go, where I have to start her video back again. Oh, goodness gracious, I have to ask her to start the video. If you have any more questions, please go ahead and enter them in. And go ahead and reshare your video, because I stopped it so that you would have a little bit of privacy getting up and coming.
Oh, me?
Yes, you.
Oh.
See, there you
okay.
go.
Okay, I'm back. That's okay. Okay.
Yes, and thank you for being honest and for sharing your poker journey. So please continue.
Okay, so this is the last portion I want to give. So what I'm going to do right now for those that are listening or interested, I'm going to give you the speech that I never got to give.
Oh, please. Okay, I'm going to. No, I'd like to introduce to you Courtney Kennedy, the 2016 World Series of Poker Ladies Champion. Courtney, what is it that you would like to share with us?
Okay. So here's an interesting story. I met a guy about a year ago, and we vibed through poker, and I truly admired his positive disposition. We text regularly for a while, and my standard intro would always be, "How are you?" What we normally say through people with text, in which he would reply, "AA." And the first couple times I received that response, I would think, oh, wow, something exciting must have happened. Maybe he hit the lottery, or his mom picked him out a new car, or maybe even he finished level 3000 on Candy Crush. So I proceeded to inquire. I said, why is that your answer every day? And so, I kind of shut him down, and, I was thinking, oh, he's a phony or what have you, and I'm not going to even deal with him anymore. And then one day he just said, every day is absolutely amazing, which is what AA stood for him. And what it means is that no matter what your circumstances or no matter your situation, he's going to choose to live his life in a positive and productive and prosperous manner. And that never left me. And it's basically telling yourself and allowing yourself every day is a new day, and to start it with no regret and any negativity. And so I say each of us poker gurus could definitely stand to implement that mentality to help us sustain those not so amazing days. And other than that, I'm going to leave you with 5 quirks about me that are just like things that make my skin crawl that you didn't know prior to now. Automatic toilets. You're trying to do your business and you're sitting perfectly still, and then here comes this rush of water. Just gross. Crosswalk controllers, the thing you really have no control over. I don't understand how they're able to still be on the street. They don't work. You press the button, you stand there, you wait till the light changes. It's been on the same schedule for a century. Nice hand. Oh, really? Not the first time you tell me that. That's not so bad. But when you repeat it, and the second time and the third time, I can translate that to you saying, you stupid chasing the open-ended with the nut flush draw and got there non-poker play and so and so and so and so. Because that's really what it means. Grammatical errors in obituaries. For the love of God, people, can you please at least spell your mom's third husband's name right in the obit? It's not like she can really do it herself. And last but not least, your 20-year-old bra. Listen. Girls with girls. You go shopping, you grab all the latest labels, you are dressed to the T from head to toe, all of the Maybelline that you could possibly buy on your face, and one of 2 things go wrong. Either your slingshot of a bra is old and worn, and so your girls are really tickling your ankles, or you have borrowed one from your best friend, and all of a sudden your twins have twins, Just go to a specialist, get sized up. Trust me, the right one will make you feel AA. So that's
You're
it.
absolutely fantastic. I am so thrilled to have you come on and just be you.
Yeah.
Courtney, you have been an absolute blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope I didn't bore everybody. Hope you got something from it, and all that good stuff.
Oh, bore. No, there's absolutely, this is just absolutely wonderful. And let me share a screen to share a screen. Okay, come on. Okay, share a screen. You see WPA?
I do.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Okay.
Want to remind anyone and everyone that when you have questions, when you have an idea for speakers or topics that you want us to cover in these third Thursday talks, please contact WPA and be sure to engage in our Facebook group. Yes, I want you to stay away from social media. Don't get engrossed in social media. And as Courtney mentioned before, when you're at the poker table, turn your phone off. Stay away from that, except turn it. You can listen to some things, but stay away from social media when you're at the table. I think that is absolutely critical. So for everyone, please go ahead and do you see the Facebook group?
I do.
Good. Women's Poker Association. I want to say uniting women poker players worldwide. This is Donna Blevins and Courtney Kennedy. We've enjoyed having you. Courtney, thank you so much for being with us.
No problem. I enjoyed you all. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.